Welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneurs Making a Difference. I'm your host, Mike Wolf, and our mission is to connect entrepreneurs from all over the world so they can collaborate, do great stuff together, and compound the results that we all get when we work together, as opposed to trying to be solopreneurs, which is very difficult sometimes. So today I have a very special guest, and I'm really happy to have her on the show. It's Dominique Molina. I'm going to read her biography here, and it says that, first of all, she's a president of the American Institute of Certified Tax Coaches, and it says here, the problem today is small business owners are wasting almost $1 billion a year in taxes they don't have to pay. And it's generally because of one of two reasons. Either they are not working with someone certified in tax planning to plan ahead using loophole strategies and deductions, or they're just getting bad advice. So Dominique is a co-founder and president of the American Institute of Certified Tax Coaches and was named one of the 40 most influential accountants by CPA Practice Advisor magazine. She appears as a tax expert and TV guest in regional television markets, including San Diego, LA, Honolulu, and New Orleans. Her excellent media credentials, professionalism, and outgoing personality allow her to provide expert practical advice on tax planning for small businesses. Ms. Molina is also a best-selling author of 4 books for small business owners who want to keep more of what they earn. Her latest book, Why Didn't My CPA Tell Me That?, provides a step-by-step plan to dramatically reduce your tax bill. And she's a frequent lecturer and speaker. Ms. Molina is a discussion leader for the AICPA and other professional accounting associations. She's also successfully licensed tax professionals as certified tax coaches across the country, creating a national network of highly qualified professionals who provide proactive service for their clients. The premier group of professionals features less than 400 specialists in 48 states who have achieved this very specialized designation. I can't speak today. So welcome to the show, Dominique. How are you today?
Thanks, Mike. Man, it sounds very impressive when you read it all out there like that. But
well, it is impressive. It's
interesting though, because what you don't hear in anybody's bio is about all the failures, right?
Well, of course, but that's how you get your successes. You have to have your struggles first before you get, and that's just a part of being an entrepreneur. Is that a lot of people are afraid to take action because they want things to be perfect, and it'll never be perfect. Everything is always evolving, so you got to take that first step and get what you're doing out there, and you will have some failures. That's part of life, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But it's what you do with those. Do you get back up, or do you let it knock you down? And sometimes, I let it knock me down for a day or two, and I just sit in it, and I say, all right, I'm gonna have self-pity for this amount of time, and then it's back up, I'm going,
Exactly. Well, you know what? It's, that's really the sign of a successful entrepreneur is how fast you do pull yourself back up. And we all get knocked down, and, life sometimes does throw a curveball, and, we all experience that. Nobody doesn't get affected by some of these, circumstances that come up in our lives, but it's how quickly we recover from that and get back up and just try again. That's really the big distinction, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Isn't that's so great about being an entrepreneur too, is that, it's your choice. You've got so much freedom in doing that, and nobody telling you that you should feel bad about this or that and do something with it. You can make that choice yourself. So it's
absolutely, absolutely. So let me ask you this. You mentioned in your bio that people are leaving billions, with a B, you're leaving billions of dollars on the table. And we all love the IRS and we want to help them. But what would you recommend for somebody who might want to reduce that tax bill? Because that's what everybody wants to know. How do I keep my taxes as low as possible?
Oh yeah, it's interesting you say that. Does anybody really like the IRS? Come on.
Well, probably. I'm Canadian, so they don't bug me too much. But we have our own issues up in Canada, so.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, and of course, you've got to either be sitting in Canada right now doing this interview, Mike, or we got to talk about some proactive tax strategies to help you stay out of the U.S. tax. But yeah, I think there's really 3 main themes, and a big misconception that taxpayers have in general is that you either have to be rich or famous or a criminal to avoid paying tax. And so there's really this fear out there. And what I love to share with people is that you don't have to be rich or famous or a criminal to really legally reduce your tax bill. And so some of the most simple things you can do is to not wait. Don't wait, because if you want to keep every dollar that the law allows you to do, you just cannot afford to wait until April 15th. It really is a difference in perspective. And so most tax professionals are going to do a fine job putting the right numbers in the right boxes during tax time. But that takes a different skill of perspective. It takes being a historian, kind of recording that history. You're recording what already happened. And unfortunately, we can't change history, but you actually can rewrite your future by taking advantage of the laws if you know what they are and changing the way that you do things going forward. And so if you make a plan going forward to take advantage of things, you can make a really big difference in your tax bill. And for some folks, it's a couple $1,000s a year that they might save. And for some, it's millions of dollars a year if you just know how to play the game. It's sort of like a chess game. You lay out your business, your investments, your lifestyle, what your plans are for the future. If you're providing for family or kids or aging parents or wanting to travel around the world or own investment properties, whatever that might be. And then you combine that with the loopholes that are available. And it's possible to pay very little in taxes just by doing exactly what the IRS actually wants us to do, and that is to use the tax code the way it was intended. So don't wait. Create a plan that takes advantage of every available break that the law allows, and really find an expert who can coach your way to a lower bill. Nobody really wants to have to know this, and I have a confession to make. I don't even really want to have to know it, but someone has to do it. And I love the strategizing and the planning, and it pays off big time.
Oh, absolutely. And as you know, I'm a real estate investor, and I teach other people how to make money in real estate. And so one of the things that I know is that a lot of the rich people pay less taxes, especially than the middle class. And there's a lot of advantages, not just in real estate, but obviously being strategic. So what are your comments? I mean, we have these very wealthy people that are paying very little tax, and the middle class is paying a lot of the brunt of the taxes. So maybe elaborate on that a little bit and how that all works.
Yeah, I think it's a big misconception, and the misconception starts with that it's how much you make that makes a difference in your tax bill. And really, I just want to help educate people to understand it's not how much you make that makes a difference, it's how you make it. So Mike, you've made your success in real estate, and you've probably experienced that real estate is taxed very differently than getting a paycheck from an employer, right? So the most expensive way to earn your income is as an employee. So big bonus for all the entrepreneurs watching, you have an advantage. We have an advantage. There are incentives that the government gives us to promote their public policy. And one of the foundations of this country was based on the notion of owning land, owning real estate. And so the government wants to encourage us to do that. And so how do they do that? Well, they incentivize us to do it. And so they give us a bit of a tax break for those of us who earn money owning real estate. Another great example is business ownership. Small business is it's the heart of our economy. Over 90% of our economy is propelled by small businesses. So what's the best way then to stimulate that economy is to give those breaks to small businesses so that they can employ more people, so that they can grow and flourish, so that they can produce and export products that are ultimately going to feed our economy. So the government then instills these incentives, and really what we're doing is we're doing exactly what they want us to do. Another great example we see with the current administration, healthcare is really important to the current administration. Now, setting aside your political differences and what your views are on whether that's good or bad, the way that they're promoting that policy is through tax incentives. So they want to see healthcare grow and flourish in the economy, so they're giving incentives for people to take advantage of this new healthcare system. So we're seeing that come in the form of tax credits and tax deductions and subsidies, all coming by way of the tax return. So it's really a wonderful thing, and if you know how to play that game, and more importantly, you can earn your money in an advantaged way, which would be real estate investing and business ownership, you can pay very, very little in tax, whether you are a bazillionaire, is that a word?
Yeah,
A
it is now.
bazillionaire.
It is.
Or whether you're part of the middle class that makes this makes our economy great. Either way, there are incentives for you. You just need to know how to use them.
Right, and the thing that's really cool is that if you, I mean, if you strategize in advance and plan yourself accordingly, I mean, you can save money right off the get-go. So for instance, I know I'm going to speak real estate because that's what I know, but I know that when I do, let's say I flip a home and I create earned income, or if I hold a property and collect rent and I get passive income, it's taxed very differently. And there's different ways to structure things where you have holding companies and you have companies that actually do the management, and you can turn something that's passive into earned to reduce the taxes. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, and that's what's really fun because you hit it. It taxed very differently. So let's take, for example, earned income. You may be paying up to 40% in tax, and that's just for the federal tax. Let's say you live in an expensive state like California or New York or Hawaii. By the time you add in your state and local taxes, you could be over half of your income on earned income just in tax.
Ouch.
On the other hand, if you earn it through investment type earnings like real estate or other types of investments, you could be looking at just 15 or even 20%, which is a big difference. It adds up big time.
Oh, absolutely. And when you're dealing with large numbers, that you know, even 1% can make an absolute huge difference. So let me ask you, for people listening, we have a lot of entrepreneurs obviously listening. What are some of the things they could do right now to reduce their taxes?
Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to look at your spending. So I recommend for entrepreneurs to, if you're not already doing it, which you really should, if you want to ultimately be in a passive business, you want to make sure that you're checking in regularly with your finances. So you should already have a good handle on where does your money go. So take a look at that. And I want you to focus on your biggest expenses. Where does the most money go? For young families, you might realize that it's on your children. If you've got private school tuition, for example, or kids' activities, saving for college, things like that, they might be your biggest expense. For a family that's older, that's transitioning, maybe kids are out of the house, it might be retirement savings, for example, or it might be travel. Travel might be your biggest expense. Whatever that expense is for you, you want to look at which type of dollars are you using to fund that expense. There's ultimately two types of dollars in this world, Mike. There's after-tax dollars, which most people earn, and they're not bad. You earn your money, you pay your tax, and you spend what's left over. But then there's something called pre-tax dollars, and that really changes that equation. You earn your money, you spend it, and then you pay tax on what's left over. So I want you to take a look at your biggest expense, and I want you to ask yourself the question, am I spending after-tax dollars on this expense, or am I spending pre-tax dollars, and how can I change that if it's not the way I want to? So let's take the example of growing young family. Kids have private school tuition, they've got braces, they've got sleepovers and camps and all sorts of expensive things. What about pulling them into the business and income shifting to their tax bracket, which is pretty darn low? Great way to now shift and spend pre-tax dollars on their expenses, things you wouldn't ordinarily get a deduction for. You shift the income to their bracket, which is lower than yours, ideally, and now you've just turned that equation on its head, and in turn your tax ends up being a lot less. Let's say it's travel. Let's say travel's your biggest expense. Looking for some way to connect that travel to your business. So Mike, you're a perfect example of this. You have shared with me that you travel. If there's a way to connect that for your work because you're connecting with other entrepreneurs and you're doing things to spread your main message around the world, perfect way to now turn that after-tax expense of travel and turn it into pre-tax dollars, and you'll see a big difference on your tax bill.
Well, that brings up an important point because I do obviously travel a lot, and my business does pay for it using pre-tax dollars. So maybe elaborate on the advantages of you know, having an LLC or different type of or C corp or having some other kind of structure other than taking income in your personal name. What are some of the advantages of that?
Yeah, great point. In fact, I see that's one of the most expensive tax mistakes that business owners make, and that is not optimizing your business entity choice for your business. So you hit on LLC, corporations, there's all kinds of other entities as well, S corporations and limited liability partnerships, there's all kinds, and they all have different tax attributes. And so a lot of the times when entrepreneurs form an entity, they're meeting with their attorney, and they're typically doing it for liability protection. We all want to protect our assets that we're working so hard to build. But a lot of times what gets missed, Mike, is there's a tax attribute as well. For example, some things are deductible in certain kinds of entities, and they're not deductible in other kinds. For example, fringe benefits. Not deductible in an S Corp. Very, very common ownership structure for a lot of small businesses. Well, most of us have medical expenses, right? And that's a fringe benefit. So if you're an S Corp owner, you may be missing out on a very, very big expense of yours on a monthly basis. They are deductible in a C Corp, however. There's also different tax rates, especially right now we're seeing top tax rates for individuals are almost 40%, but in a C corporation, the lowest tax bracket is only 15%. So what you really want to do is you want to, again, go back to where are you spending your money and where do you want to spend your money ultimately? What are your future plans? And then you want to look at which entity is going to give you the biggest tax advantage. And it just might be that you benefit from having more than one. So we use multiple entity tax planning structures to income shift around so that you can have the best of all worlds.
Exactly. Well, so here's a funny thing though. I mean, I've over the years I've switched accounting professionals that I've used, and obviously as my business has grown, I've needed more complex structures, etc. So, I mean, sometimes I've met with accountants where I felt like I knew more than they did, and I don't have the designation after my name. But how do you speak to that? Shouldn't everybody know this stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. They should know it. And the truth is they do for the most part. But this is when you go back to that issue of perspective. Most accountants focus on what's happened in the past. We're historians. We do a really good job at recording what already took place. But you can't change history. So you want an accountant that has that good handle and a great perspective on the future. Proactive planning is really the key to that. It's the ability to do some forward thinking, to lay out your situation. We don't have a crystal ball, but every good tax plan really should extend out about 3 to 5 years. And you do want to revisit it. You don't want to know more than your accountant. I mean, that's why you're paying them, right? So you want somebody that's going to regularly pick up the phone and say, Mike, I got a great idea for you that's going to save some money. When can we sit down and talk about it? Because I'm really excited. In fact, your tax bill is going to go down $20,000, $30,000 this year. We got to get on this right now.
Dominique, you can phone me anytime with that kind of anytime.
I got plenty of ideas. And so to me, that's a really simple litmus test. You want to ask your accountant, how often will you be contacting me with ideas to save on taxes? That's what you're looking for in a relationship, right? So the truth is, accountants know this, but it's in perspective. So, Mike, if you were to go to an accountant and say, hey, I want to know, can I deduct fringe benefits in my S corporation? They're going to say, well, gosh, Mike, let me tell you how the law works. You can't do it. They know the law. On the other hand, someone with a forward-thinking perspective is going to say, gosh, Mike, we really need to talk about your entity choice because you're an S corporation right now and your medical expenses are getting up there. And so I want to look at now bringing in a C corporation or an LLC or some other structure so that you can get the best of all worlds. That's really the difference. So finding out how often are they going to meet with you. And then people are often surprised to hear, too, that your accountant should actually be making you money. Most people write a check and it's just a cost of doing business. But a really good accountant will earn that income back for you and then some. And that's the power of tax planning. You should be able to see a multiple back on that investment that you're making with them through really good sound planning. And so that's a good litmus test too, is to ask your accountant, how much can I expect to make as a result of working together with you?
I love the way you think. That is awesome. I love that. So there's probably some people listening right now that are saying, you know what, I think I'm paying too much taxes. So how would a business owner who's listening in, how would they determine how much they're paying too much, and how can they correct that?
Well, bad news and good news. Bad news is they're right. They probably are paying too much. They probably aren't taking advantage of every break that the law allows. How much? Well, you should be able to meet with someone, and within about an hour, they should be able to tell you how much you're wasting and how much you can expect to save through a proactive tax plan. There's a lot of resources out there to help you get educated enough so that you can meet a few proactive planners and decide who would be a good fit for you to work with. You want to look for someone who's certified in tax planning. We have a few different books out that can be really helpful. Our latest book is called Why Didn't My CPA Tell Me That? It's all about the ideas, things that just get really commonly overlooked that make a big difference in your bottom line and how much your personal bank account grows. We are the business, and that's what matters in the end, right, is how much of that we're actually able to keep. You can find resources just by going to certifiedtaxcoach.com. There's even a quiz you can take to find out how much you might be overpaying. But it really pays just to get started now. Don't wait. You really can't afford to. The later you get in the year, the less time is available to actually implement a plan that's going to rescue all that wasted tax.
Exactly. No, that's great advice. So, and you've certified, I believe you said, in 48 different states. You have people that can help in 48 different states now, right?
We do. For some reason, North Dakota's been a tough one. Oh boy. North Dakota, we're having trouble. But if you know,
everybody's digging. They're looking for oil right now. They're not doing accounting.
It's true, but you know what? There's a lot of tax planning you can do on all those royalties from oil. So you got to get planning. North Dakota and Delaware. So we're working on those last two states. But yeah, we've got hundreds of professionals across the country. And I would say too, it's a little bit like dating, Mike. So you want to make sure that you click personality-wise. You definitely want to make sure that you and your tax planner have a good understanding of your business, that your tax planner has a good understanding of where your vision, where are you trying to take your business in the future, what are your primary objectives in life, how do you give back to the community so that they can support your mission, because ultimately that's what this is about, right? It's about building these relationships so that you can further your vision and your mission and your impact on the world.
I think that's very important when you mention having similar personality types of being on the same page, because I mean sometimes you get accountants that are very conservative and they don't want to write off things, which are perfectly fine, and then you get other ones that are very aggressive, and then you worry, okay, am I going to get audited doing some of this stuff? So
you want to get that joint sell, right? You want to know that if you're going away, your accountant is going with you.
With you, exactly. So true. So let me switch gears here for a minute. And let's talk about making a difference. What are some of the things that either you've done to give back, or some of the things that you want to do? How do you want to change this planet?
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm so appreciative of your program too. I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and just I was so attracted to it because of your mission, and you know, it's something that I don't take lightly. You know, I've built this community of proactive tax professionals across the country, and I'm a leader in the small business community, and I love that I have a platform to do well with. You know, we all care about making money, we all care about growing our wealth, but to be truly wealthy, we want to have the relationships to enjoy it. We want to make a difference in this planet, and we want to be able to use our position of influence for good. So it's not a position that I take lightly. And so one of the things we've done as a company here at the AICTC is we've adopted a 1-1-1 model for giving back. And so so what we do is we strive to harness the power of our company resources. So, for example, the intellectual wealth of our team. We've got hundreds of professionals across the country, and so we do a lot of volunteer work with the small business community, primarily through the SCORE Foundation. It's an organization made up of volunteer business counselors that will sit down with small business owners and help you map out a plan. We also donate 1% of our products, which happens to be our technology and our books. So we donate that to the community. And 1% of our time. So all of our staff here in our office, and also all of our hundreds of professionals across the country, we donate 1% of our time to give back every year. So a few of the things that we do is the volunteer work with small business owners, but we live in Southern California, so here we've adopted a beach, and so we hold 3 events a year to do beach cleanup, and we bring out our families and we bring out our team when they're visiting from out of the area, and we work together so that we can have a really nice environment, build camaraderie, and just have a good time getting out and enjoying nature. Helps to promote our creativity as well, I think, when we're out there working with our hands together. And so a lot of it is just living by example, Mike. It's adopting some of these models in our own business and then hoping to have a positive influence on others that we come into contact with, that they would adopt something similar that works in their own business, and realizing that it isn't just about the dollars and cents, but it's about what you do with those to really enjoy and make a difference in the world.
Yeah, well, I have to agree with that, and that's why we call the show Entrepreneurs Making a Difference, because, you know, I've done very well with real estate, and it was great making the money, but really what made me happy when I really look back and what's made me happy over the years is giving back and helping other people, and the money's great. It gives you the freedom to do that, and so I don't want to say, oh, I'm opposed to making money and being an entrepreneur. I'm not by any stretch, but it's always helping others that really, at the end of the day, I'm not a really big fan of buying all these material things. I went through that phase when I was younger, and now it's much more fun to adopt a beach and invite your friends to that beach, or to give back whatever way lights you up.
Yeah, exactly. It's about, I think what I've noticed just on my own path in life too is through the failures, it's realizing that, getting ahead and stepping on people along the way just because you're trying to get to where you want to go, because we're ambitious. Entrepreneurs, we share that. We tend to be very ambitious people, but it's very lonely. It's a very lonely and almost an emptiness. There's an emptiness that comes along with that. And so, a lot of times the question comes up too, do you build your wealth first and then choose to give back? And what I found is the neat thing about it, Mike, is that if you can just build, it's your life. You just build your life. And what's interesting is you sort of get this momentum. And so as I'm living my life the way that I want to do my life, good things really happen. And so the momentum starts to pick up, and it's not about putting one or the other first. It's just, it's all holistic, and it all comes together, and you can have a lot more fulfilling relationships and a very, very rich life in every sense of the word.
Yeah, those are great words of wisdom, and thank you for sharing that. So we need to wrap up here fairly soon, unfortunately, but how can somebody get a hold of you if they want to work with you?
Oh, easy. Just go to certifiedtaxcoach.com. And of course, I'm there on the website. I'm happy to help out any way that I can. But we also have a team of proactively trained advisors all across the country, and you can connect with each of them as well through that website.
Well, that's great. So I just want to thank you for being here. First of all, I'll let you end off. Do you have one piece of wisdom that you want to share with the world and the universe and our listeners? What do you want to, if you could say one thing, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say don't wait to start living your life. Don't postpone your happiness. You can do it now, and you can just make small changes every single day. Seems like we have a long time. We kind of take that time for granted, but get started now. There's no reason to delay that.
Well, thanks so much, Dominique. I want to thank you for joining us, and it's been really fun talking to you, and I hope our listeners gained a lot of knowledge from what you have to say.
Thanks, Mike. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We'll have you back again.
I'd love to.
That sounds great. So thank you, Dominique, and thank you, the viewers, for tuning in today and watching Entrepreneurs Making a Difference. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And once again, thanks so much for tuning in.